Welcome to the show. I am MMA insider and Herb Dean's dog sitter, Joey Venti, and you're listening to the MMA History Podcast, the only podcast dedicated 100% to the preservation of mixed martial arts history. Interviews and stories about the early days of MMA direct from the men who lived it. Hundreds of interviews, thousands of hours of research, all conducted by the most obsessed mind in the business, the MMA detective Mike Davis. Join us as we document the history of the sport we all love. Fellow historians, welcome back to the MMA History Podcast. I am Joey Venti, and we have a very special episode for you today. This marks the third installment of Mike Davis's prison interview series. And this time, we're diving into the life and legacy of Andy Anderson. For those who may not know, Andy is a true pioneer in the MMA world. He's been a fighter, a promoter, and an all-around fixture in the sport's earliest days. He's a guy who attended or worked at 24 of the first 26 UFC events. His passion for mixed martial arts and his presence during the formative years left a real and lasting mark on the sport. If you don't know Andy Anderson, you don't know your history. And if you don't know your history, we are here to help. Now, it's important to address the obvious. Andy is currently in federal prison, but let me be clear. This is not a story about violence. Andy is not in prison for harm 30 years for helping a criminal pay taxes, allegedly. He fought the law, and the law won, but he is not a monster. Context matters, and this interview is about the full picture of the man, not just the hardest chapter of his life. Because federal prison will not permit video recording, the interview portion of this episode will be audio only. What you're about to hear is an unfiltered conversation that offers a rare glimpse into Andy's journey, his perspective on the early MMA scene, and what it was like to be there when the sport was still being built from the ground up. After the interview, I'll jump back on with Mike for the wrap-up, and we will continue this series. Because one, you keep asking us to. Two, Mike's really good at these. And three, nobody else is going to do it. It's our job to tell these stories, no matter where these lives have led the men who lived them. That is our job. Let's dive into the interview. I'll see you on the other side.
You may begin speaking now.
Mike?
What's up, Andy?
Another day.
Yeah, I know we've been trying to coordinate this for a minute. It hasn't exactly been easy on either of our ends. I think what we should do in regards to this interview is we start a little hot. Why don't we start with UFC 12? That was the event that was supposed to be in New York originally, and then got moved to Dothan, Alabama. I had heard you played a pretty significant role in that.
Well, I was on the ground floor of it. I mean, it was a big deal. We finally made it to New York, and they're going back and forth with court, and I think everybody in the world knew that it was canceled except Bob Meyrowitz, that is. And then, lo and behold, when it all caught up, we immediately had to move, and it was amazing that he really got everyone together. And also, Lucas, his director, is really hard to work with because he's such a perfectionist. And so it was an insurmountable task to get everything from New York to Dothan, Alabama overnight. I mean, it was great that they did that.
So people had said that Elaine McCarthy was one of the unsung heroes of getting everything coordinated, but that you had also helped with the renting of airplanes. Is there any truth to that?
Well, yeah, Elaine, she's really amazing. She really was. Back in the day, Semaphore Entertainment, in the very beginning, she was just really the flight coordinator. And then later on, she played a pivotal role in really putting things together because she worked for a travel agency in the very beginning, and then she left them and started working for Bob at Semaphore, and she really stepped up to the plate, especially the Dothan thing, because she helped coordinate all that. So Bob and I went to the airport, and Bob was renting two planes, and Bob had a Platinum American Express, and I had a black card. Yeah, so with a certified check and with Bob's card. He put it all together, and it worked out. But yeah, I was I was there, and so finally we get to Dothan, and we got this big huge arena, and no one there. I always keep 4 or 5 people with me. I keep my attorney, my bondsman, and my lawyer with me all the time. And I also have 4 or 5 girls with me usually. And so I had all my girls passing out tickets, going to bars, going to Hooters. We rounded up some ring card girls at Hooters. We rounded up customers at every Hooters in town. And we filled that huge arena out, and we were just giving away tickets, just giving away. First come, first serve. I don't care where you sit, just come in and sit down, shut up. And he pulled it off.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the heroic moments for the early SEG era. Like, it kind of proved that they had some grit to them.
Yeah, and you know, like Bob will tell you, he was in the music industry forever, and he'll tell you, I'm not a musician, but I know the music industry. And then same thing about fight. I'm not a fighter, he said, but I know public relations. I know how to put it together, and Bob really did. And back then there were very few Trump trucks in America, and a Trump truck is where you can send and receive a satellite uplink signal. And then, so, like Puerto Rico, we had to send one from New York to...
This call is from a federal prison.
Yes, it is. We had to send one from New York to Puerto Rico to put on the show. So all that coordination stuff and all the back, the stuff that you never see. And a lot of unsung heroes that would, put stuff together that just you wouldn't believe.
Okay, so let's kind of go from the beginning. What was the first UFC that you had ever attended?
One.
You were actually at the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. Where were you, like, on the floor?
I was on the floor. I was just a spectator. Nobody knew who I was at that point. And I heard they were putting it together, and I said, well, I've got to see what this is about. Because prior, I was fighting 15 years before the UFC. And I was already done fighting, and then they brought in the UFC, and I'm like, well, shit, I got to do this. And, and so I went to, I think, every UFC up until Bob sold it, except for 2. And, if there's a fight anywhere in the world, I'm going to fly to it.
Okay. So you're at the first one. I know Eric Paulson's at the first one. When do you start getting involved with the organization as a whole in regards to kind of pitching in?
Like when, what was that, 2, when Busby's guy fought in UFC, I believe that was 2, wasn't it? What was his name, Scott Morris?
Yes.
Okay, so I knew Morris from Arlington, Texas. That's where he's from. And so probably then, and I was there at that one, and I knew Morris pretty well. I guess probably then, and then I started talking to Bob and got to meet Bob and know Bob, and then Isaacs and some of the 4 people, and I just kind of blended in.
Okay. So you also, like, one of the rumors about you was that, like, your NHB era was mostly done in the country of Mexico.
Yeah.
Is there truth to that?
Quite a bit. I had some friends that were that I used to roll with here in Texas, and they lived in Mexico City, and they were talking to me about this. It's called a palinka, and it's weird. I mean, you'll have a Mexican singer, like I know, real famous Mexican singer, and then you'll have a chicken fight, and then you'll have motorcycle races. It's just in a stadium, and it's crazy. And then so, before, during, and after the chicken fights, you have guys get in there and fight. And sometimes, you fight 5, 6 people in a night, and one after the other. Sometimes you don't even get out of the cage. But yeah, I did a lot of that. Okay,
so Julian Sanchez fought at UFC 11. He was one of Mark Coleman's opponents. He was a Mexican NHB fighter. Did you have any interactions or know of his history prior to that event?
I was at that fight, and everybody asked me, do you know this guy? I no. Have you heard of this guy? No. and I'm like, wow. You figure if he's that good and that famous from Mexico, you would hear it, or I would have known it. And no, I didn't. I was very surprised. And we all know how that fight went.
Let's talk about your relationships. Like I've got like a bunch of other
This call
questions
is from a federal prison.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I got a bunch of questions for you, but let's start with relationships. So when you first started coming around to the UFCs, did you start a relationship with, was it Art Davie or Bob Meyrowitz?
Probably Davies at first, because Davies is the one that really got me into the UFC. And so he wanted to see, okay, well, you know, let's see some documentation on your record. Let's see your black belt certificate. Let's see this. And, I mean, I went through a painstaking interview to get approved to fight in the UFC. And then so we went through all that, and I gave everything to Davies and met with Davies several times, and he and I got along pretty good. Davies is, I think you would call him an ad man. I mean, he really knew what he was doing as far as advertising and really getting the word of the UFC out there at that point. So, yeah, I started out with Davies, and then Bob and I really hit it off as well.
Did you ever have a relationship with Horia?
I knew him, but no, not really. You know, he was really standoffish. You know, he really didn't blend in like the Semaphore guys. Excuse me, like David Isaacs and all of them. He was very standoffish.
How would you describe Art Davie and Bob Meyrowitz's relationship, like when you first got there?
They were pretty tight, but it was Bob's ship, and whatever Bob said, that's the way it is. That's the way it was. And then you might say, everybody says they were partners. Well, okay, I mean you could say that, but it wouldn't be true. It's Bob's ship, and Art had his part, which was a very important part, but everybody knew their pecking order, and whatever Bob said, this is what we're going to do.
It seemed real contentious from the very beginning. Like, I mean, obviously I wasn't there, but watching their interactions through the early UFCs, there seems to be just an issue there between the two of them.
I think it might be the hierarchy of it, because Art is not used to taking anything from anybody. As far as, okay, I want to do this, and then Art always has his own opinion, but it was, and I was there from day one. I would always get to a fight venue 2 weeks before the fight, and, you need me to referee? Cool. You need me to fight? Great. I've always got extra pair of sweats. And then everyone would run around like, chickens with their heads cut off, and then when Bob gets there, everybody better have their stuff in order. And that's the same way Bob treated everybody that way, and Art just wasn't used to that. So I think that's where you get the contention. And then towards the end of their relationship together, it got progressively worse.
Yeah, you could see that. You could see it. And what about Buddy Albin? I know he was the early site coordinator, definitely a controversial figure.
Wow.
How did you meet him?
Buddy Albin, I was in a restaurant at one of the shows in the hotel, and then Oleg Taktarov was there. And one of my students wanted to talk to Oleg, wanted to meet him, and he went over to introduce himself. And then so Buddy got real mouthy with one of my guys, and I pretty much told Buddy, sit your little bitch ass down. And we got into an argument over it. So then later on that evening, he came over and figured out who I was, apologized, and then from that point on, okay, cool. Buddy was the site coordinator, but Buddy was also a manager of several other fighters as well. So, it's kind of like, Mike Tyson. He was told what to do. Buddy told all the fighters what to do. And you wouldn't get in the early UFCs. You're not going to get in the UFC unless Buddy gives you a green light.
So Charlie Anzalone, also an early manager. Did you have a good relationship with him?
Oh yeah, he's a blast. He showed up in that red jacket, and everybody's like, "Who is this?" And he just kind of forced his way in, and he stayed there for years and years. Yeah, Charlie was a great guy. He interviewed, let me see, last time I went to a fight, he interviewed Robin Leach and I before the fight. Yeah, Charlie's a great guy.
Okay, so Buddy Albin, a controversial figure. I mean, I'm looking at it through today's lens. Like, I call him controversial. Did you feel that way about him as well at the time you were dealing with him?
He was a loose cannon. He was almost the demise of the UFC. He would promise all kinds of things and never come through. And before he left the UFC, he was a functional alcoholic. We were putting together the show in Puerto Rico, just one example of one of his faux pas. And so then we had a meeting with the people that are in charge of the Trump trucks, the satellite trucks, and the backup generators and all that. And so we talked to them, and I spoke Spanish, Buddy didn't. And so, okay, we got everything worked out. Their equipment was not going to work for what we wanted to do. So we get back to the hotel. Buddy says he's going to lay down and take a nap. 2 hours later, Buddy calls me, wakes me up. He calls me. He just woke up. I meet him down in the bar, and he's telling me this story like I wasn't even at the meeting. And he said, well, here's what we're going to do, and here's what I'm like, Buddy, I was there. What do you mean? I said, Buddy, I was at the meeting. And he had forgot that I was at the meeting. And then so I called Bob Meyrowitz, and then the shit just hit the fan. And then Bob had to ship everything from New York overnight, and just it cost him a fortune. And that was Buddy Albin's last day.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah. Well, he also was with the IFC. So right after Puerto Rico, let me kind of put things in order here. So April 7th, 1995, you fight at UFC 5. Do you have management?
His phone's going to die in about a minute.
Okay. Do you want to call me back?
I will. I'll call you back.
My man.
To reject this call, hang up now. You may begin speaking now.
Yeah, thanks for the call back, man. Hello?
Yeah, no problem, bud. I'm here.
All right, let's talk about your UFC debut. It's UFC 5, April 7th, 1995. John Hess is your opponent. How does it come together?
Have to stick a fucking thumb anywhere.
That's pretty good. That's actually pretty good.
That's pretty good. So anyway, it was luck of the draw, and of course I always get the big guy. So he was there, and him and his whole crew was just obnoxious. I mean, they're running into people in the hallway, they're pushing people around. I mean, it was terrible. And he almost didn't even make it to the fight because people were really considering either A, getting rid of him, or B, beating him up. I mean, he was that obnoxious, him and his whole crew. And so from that point on, we had our press meeting, and then, of course, that's where they announced who's fighting who, and he was sitting right next to me. And his wife was there, his trainer was there, and so, I mean, the rest is history.
So you were, did you know who he was prior, or did you just meet him at the event?
Ran into him at the venue, and I always get there a couple weeks early no matter what, and then he was just, like I said, when him and his crew, and I didn't know how we were going to fight, when him and his crew got there, they were just really rude to everyone. I didn't get it. I mean, they were just obnoxious. And normally, especially back then, I mean, we all kind of respected one another, and, we all had, admiration for one another, I mean, I respect anyone who walks into that ring, irregardless whether you win or lose. I mean, it takes nerve. But, no, he was just, him and his whole crew got there, and they really didn't fit in at all.
So you were listed at 86-0 with 86 KOs. You're known as the Hammer. Back then, I know there was a lot of pageantry and almost a demand for a resume, whether it be true or not, to be featured on the pay-per-view. Did that come into play when you were announced with that?
No, I'm a grandmaster in Taekwondo, and I've trained my entire life for martial arts. I've studied countless different arts, and I have fought, like I said, 15, 20 years before the UFC, and I always had a crew with me, and back then we didn't even really keep track of how many people we were fighting. I mean, sometimes it'd be 4 or 5 people in a night, and then 2 days later you're fighting 4 or 5 people again. And then he's not really a manager, but yeah, one of my crew is the guy said, well, I said, they want a number, and then so he looked up. We've been together 20 years, and he looked up some of the fights I've had, and he said, I can't remember you losing one, and so that's where the 87 came in. And even though I'm a Taekwondo guy, naturally, and studied judo and jiu-jitsu and everything else, I love to punch people, and it's not about money for me. It's about the thrill of the fight, and so and then Art Davie's back then. I mean, they really went through your resume, and if you're bullshitting, they would know.
Okay, so you came in obviously as somebody with some wealth and a penchant for action. Where did you make your money at?
The nightclub business. I owned topless clubs. I owned airplane charter services, construction companies, landscaping services, totally nude restaurants. And a lot of things. I owned a lot of things.
Were you one of the owners of Spanky's?
No. The original Rick's, which is now public.
This call is from a federal prison.
Original Rick's, which is publicly traded. My ex-partner and I got into that, and then he ended up taking it over, and we went separate ways. And then so I also had tanning salons, adult tanning salons, but I had hard bodies, I had Peep and Toms, I had Ecstasies, I had restaurants. So I was pretty busy.
All right, so on to a little bit of controversy. On July 14th, 1995, at UFC 6, it's in Casper, Wyoming, and you're in the corner of Anthony Macias when he fought Oleg Taktarov.
Yes, I was.
Can you open up on that?
Anthony and I have been friends for years, and even after that, years later, I ended up hiring Anthony to work at some of my clubs, and then we would train together, and I also was in his corner when he fought in Pride as well. So Anthony at that time was still under the employ of Buddy Albin. Buddy was still his manager, and Buddy, like I said, at that point, Buddy was the shot caller when it comes to the UFC and who fights and who doesn't.
Okay. And the rumor was that Macias took a dive. Oleg is adamant that there was no fix. But there seems to be a lot more questions than there are answers. You being in the corner, could you give us what your perspective is?
I was actually in the dressing room, which Buddy took Anthony out of the dressing room, and Buddy told Anthony in no uncertain terms, look, if you don't throw this fight, you'll never fight again in the UFC. If you don't throw this fight, you will never fight again anywhere. And at that point, I'm sure Anthony believed him, because at that point, Buddy had that much pull. He had that much sway on who did and who didn't fight in the UFC. And so, Buddy Albin told Anthony in no uncertain terms, he says, you can't beat Oleg, but you can hurt him. And I don't want you to hurt him. That is the untarnished truth.
Do you think Oleg knew about this?
Not until Oleg grabbed him. Because Anthony and we all know how Oleg fights, and Anthony just slid right into a guillotine, and it was just too easy. It was just too easy. And I'm sure Oleg, in the back of his mind, and Oleg's a beast. Oleg is a true fighter. I mean, a real warrior. There's no doubt. And no, Oleg wasn't in the dressing room when Albin told him that. Whether Oleg figured it out later or someone told Oleg, Oleg is still probably oblivious to it. But I was there, and yes, that did happen.
Wow. Yeah, I believe Oleg figured it out after, but wasn't aware of it.
I don't think Oleg would allow anyone to take a dive. It's not in him. That's not in him. I mean, he's a real warrior.
Yeah. Yes, he is. So that's the same event. Pat Smith was in an elevator and he got beat up by Tank, Tito Ortiz, and Paul Herrera.
Yes. So their penthouse, I usually get the penthouse wherever I am. Their idea of a penthouse is on the ground floor. It's the only room in the hotel. And it was a nice hotel. The only room in the hotel that had indoor swimming pool, or like a 10-man jacuzzi. So anyway, I got the room. There had been some animosity between Smith back and forth and Tank and his boys. Tank didn't lay a hand on Smith, but Tito and Herrera definitely did, and they carried Smith to my room, which was right next to the elevator, because he was beat all kind of up. And so Tank's usually the protagonist. I mean, he'll start it, and because he's got a mouth on him, and then his crew will do the dirty work.
Yeah, Eddie Ruiz as well. Was he there?
Yeah, Eddie was there. Yeah.
Oh. Was there any repercussions backstage? Were there any talks about punishing Tank or Tito or Paul Herrera or any of those guys?
At one point, Tank was suspended, but I don't know if it was for that or some other nefarious things that Tank or his crew did. But at one point, Tank was definitely suspended, and we met with him in New York, and he mea culpa.
Yeah, that was the Puerto Rico fight in the audience with Alan Goes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was there for that too.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
Here at UFC 7, you hung out with Remco Pardoel.
Great guy. Yeah, great guy. Love Remco. Really good guy.
In our interview with Remco, he had claimed that he just had enough. He tapped out.
This call is from a federal prison.
I'm sorry?
He tapped out to Marco Ruas, and it was just kind of when you watch it, you're just what happened? Why did you tap out? And in essence, he explained that Ruas was so greased up, he had enough. He couldn't get a hold of him and touch him, and frustrated and said, I've had enough.
Yeah, at that point, it's an old fighter's trick. At that point, you can oil yourself down and then just relax. And then 5 minutes later, when you're sweating, the oil comes out in your skin. And back then, at that point, we didn't really have a whole lot of rules. And but then again, not taking anything from Marco Ruas. Marco Ruas is a beast. He just working out. He shin kicked me in Japan, and I limped for a month. He's a beast. So, and not taking anything from either of them. I was at the fight, and it was a heck of a fight. But then, I could see the frustration in Pardoel's face. It's just what am I going to do to this guy?
Yeah, he's a fantastic follow on Instagram.
Great guy.
For the audience. Yeah, fantastic guy, Remco. So, were you also ever present when Marco Ruas challenged Rickson Gracie?
I was having an after party, not Rickson, but I was having an after party one time, and then Ruas gets into an argument with another fight promoter from another organization, and we're on the 30th floor, and it was everything I could do to get Ruas not kicking him through the plate glass window. But it's always been a standing challenge. He is called out pretty much the whole Gracie clan countless times, and from what I understand, he didn't want anything. He didn't want any part of it.
When you say he, are you talking about Ruas or Rickson?
Ruas. No, I'm talking about Ruas. No, I'm sorry, Rickson. Rickson didn't want any part of it. Ruas pretty much called out all the Gracies at one point.
So there was
didn't want any part of it.
So there was a rumor that you were in Japan on a bus when Bas Rutten challenged Rickson Gracie to a fight?
Bas will fight anybody, and Bas is, in my opinion, one of the greatest fighters of all time in his time. And yeah, Bas did get into an argument with him. Bas did call him out, but that was more than one time as well. At that point, Bas was on the top of his game. He would fight anybody at any time.
What did you take away from that?
Well, I didn't know Rickson very well, but I do know the Japanese game, the fight game. And once an organization gets you and you're on top of their food chain, they don't want you to get hurt. They don't want you to fall from fame, and they want you to win. So a lot of times, like they'll call an American fighter and say, okay, you have a fight this weekend. Okay, well, it's Thursday. Yeah, your fight's Saturday. Okay, you want me to fly to Japan and fight in, 2 days' notice? So a lot of times that will happen. But Bas lived in Japan at the time, for the most part. And so, to fight a fresh Bas Rutten or to fight someone who's a ringer from America who's already tired from jet lag, yeah, okay. So, yeah, he had a lot of fighters that were handpicked.
Yeah, Mark Kerr actually alluded to that on the Jackson podcast, that Rickson had a fake fight in Japan.
A fake fight?
Could you expand on it?
So, yeah, they handpicked a lot of his fights.
Okay. Puerto Rico. So February 16th, 1996, the UFC goes to Puerto Rico, and Tank Abbott
destroys a Hard Rock Cafe upstairs, which was also a police substation. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, it seemed like Tank Abbott was out of control. Gets into a fight at the after party. Go ahead. Hello?
You may begin speaking now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Man, dude, I really appreciate you calling me back, kind of putting this thing together. It makes it easier for me to put it together faster. So February 16th, 1996, UFC goes to Puerto Rico, and you would explain that Tank was a little bit out of control.
Yeah, sometimes we play jokes on each other, and then him and Tank really didn't get along. Him and Ken Shamrock really didn't get along. So the van that they picked Ken up still had a picture, still had a sign in the back, and it says Ken Shamrock's van. And so Tank and his crew stole Ken Shamrock's van and proceeded to drive it through Old San Juan, Puerto Rico. It stopped at a corner, grabbed a girl, threw her in the van. The next corner, threw her out of the van. I'm thinking, and I'm following behind with one of my wives. I'm like, oh, God, we're going to jail. And so ended up going to Hard Rock. We're on the second floor, and everybody starts doing shots. Everybody's drinking, and this is the day before the fight. And everybody's wiped out. And the next thing you know, Tank and his crew knock over tables, move them out of the way, and start wrestling in the middle of the place. And then here comes like 20 cops. Unbeknownst to us, Hard Rock Cafe, Puerto Rico, was also a police substation. But it actually went well. Everyone was laughing, took pictures, got autographs, and allowed Tank and his boys to destroy the entire restaurant.
Wow. Yeah, they said Tank was out of control. Did you go to the after party where Tank and some of the Brazilians had issues?
Yeah. I always have an after party, and then there's always 3 or 4 after parties. But he was in rare form that night. Kind of like Japan, he was just out of control, and you don't act a fool in Japan. But he was in rare form that night.
So UFC Puerto Rico, he gets into a fight in the audience, and I know Kimo is there as well, and Kimo has got issues with. It seems like Tank has got issues with problems with everybody.
Yeah, at that time, and sometimes you think it's an act, sometimes it's not. I've always wanted to fight Tank myself. that's just who he is. But then when he takes off that persona, that's really not who he is. He's well-educated, well-tempered, and relatively intelligent. But when he's in a group of people, he's a different person.
You know, he also has got pretty good artwork too. He's a pretty good painter.
Yeah. I went to his house in California one time because when I was with Bob Meyrowitz, we were working on this Yama fight that Bob put together. And no bullshit, Tank had 500 pounds on the bench. And dry, he walks over, and this is all on film, walks over and did 10 reps of 500-some pounds, like 505, 10 times, perfect. No one spotted him, nothing. And racked it, and apologized to the cameraman because he says, I haven't worked out in 3 or 4 months. I was...
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and
wow.
I saw it myself. I was amazed.
Did you have any dealings with Kimo or Joe San?
Well, so I was in Vegas at Deja Vu, and with the UFC announcer. And he was there with...
Are you talking about Richard, the G-Man, Richard Goins?
No. This is years later. This is...
Buffer. With
yeah.
Bruce Buffer.
Bruce
okay.
Buffer. And so I go to that club a lot, and then he's over there with Joe San. And this is years later, after Joe San fought and all that. And then so, yeah, they motioned me over. So I go over and I had a few drinks. And I'm not kidding. He's sitting with 2 absolutely beautiful women. And we're having a couple drinks, and then, we're talking about fights, and I'm not kidding. He put his hand on my leg. And I look over and I said, what the fuck are you doing? He said, well, maybe you want to come over with me and the girls. And I got up from the table and said, you have lost your mind. So, yeah, that's my dealing with him. Kimo, I met him several times, talked to him. He's definitely a devout Christian, relatively intelligent individual. But Joe San, that's another story.
So Joe San, the rumor with Joe was that he would supplement Kimo's training and, some of the things that he ingested prior to a fight to get ready for his fight through dealing drugs or nefarious behavior. Did you get that from him?
I never saw it, so I can't speak firsthand of it. It's rumored, yeah, but I never saw it. So, I mean, and some of the guys back then did partake. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, but I never personally saw it, so no.
Okay, all right. And then there was an incident at UFC 3 where the rumor was that Joe San was paying Randy Ziegler private lessons with Rickson, and then he'd come back and teach Kimo all of the movements, which is why Kimo did so well against Royce Gracie. Yes,
that's... I was told that by several people, so yeah, that's pretty much a substantiated rumor. That did happen.
Wow. So with Ken Shamrock, there was a rumor that I think Tony Galindo, I shouldn't say rumor, there was a statement by Tony Galindo in our interview with him stating that there was an incident with Shamrock where he was in a room with a different woman and you had to run outside and catch the woman as he dropped
her from
the
the balcony. Oh, God, yeah. That was,
so it's true.
Yes. That was Casper, Wyoming. And I had never met Ken's wife. And Ken is on the second floor.
This call is from a federal prison.
I'm sorry. Ken is on the second floor in a room with this girl. And the girl had long hair down past her butt. Anyway, very attractive girl. So, long story short, Ken's wife comes up and introduces herself. And, hi, I'm so-and-so Shamrock. She wasn't scheduled to come until the very next day. I'm like, oh, hi. It's really nice to meet you. And so she's asking this guy where Ken's room is. And he looked at me like a deer in the headlight. I mean, oh, my God. And so she told him. Or he told her, rather, and then so she goes to the elevator, and I hear a ding, and then I pick up a rock and hit Ken's window, and Ken's like, what? I'm like, dude, your wife's on the way up in the elevator. And he grabs this girl's stuff and throws it over. Okay, so I'm thinking, all right, great, I'm just going to catch her clothes. No, then he tosses her over the second floor balcony, and I catch her. Yeah, So, and then I run her over out of the way, and then Ken's wife walks outside on the balcony, and she's like, what the fuck did you just throw over here? And he's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And so, yeah, he got away with it. That did happen, and it hurt my back too, because she wasn't a little girl.
The Puerto Rico show was also a rumor where Bob Meyrowitz and Art Davie had like an official split in regards to their relationship. When did you know that there was an animus there?
That was Bob was bringing people in, and unbeknownst to Art, and Art's like, who are these people? What's their position? What are they doing here? And it just got progressively worse and progressively worse. And then Bob caught wind that Art was trying to do his own thing. And then when Bob finally had proof that, and Art did not deny it, he's like, well, yeah, because stuff just ain't working out here. And then also the Gracies had a little to do. They also wanted. The reason they built the UFC the way they did is they wanted to control the outcome. They wanted time limits. They wanted the UFC to cater to them so they would never lose. And Art wasn't going to go that way either, but he also wasn't going to stay with Bob any longer. So Bob caught what Art was trying to do his own organization.
Yeah, this is like when Art started bringing in the Lucha Libre guys.
Right.
Like Ruas, and it was almost like a direct contradiction to helping the Gracies, because he was giving them their competitors in Brazil, a little bit of light as well.
Right, and Art and the Gracies. They started this. It was their idea, and then Bob took the ball and ran with it. And. The Gracies were in their feelings about it, and there was a lot of contentions with them, because hold up, this isn't what we signed on for, because they wanted to win forever. But then once you figured out what they do, because a lot of fighters back then in the day, they were purists, and at one point I was Taekwondo, I thought it was great, and then this little 4'2" guy turned me into a pretzel, and I was hold up, what is that? Oh, jiu-jitsu. Where do you learn it? Brazil. Okay, I'll move to Brazil. So, and then once you learned what they're doing, they weren't that good. They're great. Don't let me take anything from them, but I'm saying once you figured out they're one-dimensional. This is what they do. They're not boxers. They're not wrestlers. This is what they do. So you box a wrestler and you wrestle a boxer.
Yeah. Now, you also had Frank Shamrock living with you at one point.
Yeah. I always have 2 or 3 girls run around with me. And one of them was Tiffany. Tiffany was living with me and my wife at the time. And Tiffany is absolutely beautiful.
This call is from a federal prison.
And Frank just was enamored of her, and so was a lot of other people. And so we went back to Texas, and Frank went with us. And so all the time he was there, he would come out of that room maybe once a week, and because they were eating pizza. And you would see him maybe once a week. She would come down and make breakfast, and that's the last you'd see him. And and he would go to the gym every now and then, but maybe you'd see him once a week. So he was
getting his privates in, lessons.
I'm telling you, yeah. Her ground game must have been amazing.
Fair enough. Tony Galindo as well lived with you briefly.
Yeah.
How would you describe that?
Well, pretty much the same thing. We had a great gym. It was a 40,000 square foot gym. It was part of a hotel. It had indoor track, sauna, steam room, weights. It had I put in a mat gym. It had everything.
Wait,
and,
I may have spoken wrong. I think you're being polite. I mean Scott Bessac. You lived with Scott Bessac for a while.
Scott followed Tiffany. Same thing. So Scott fell in love with Tiffany. And Tiffany said, look, it's just not going to happen. And then Scott, he's like, well, and Scott was married. His wife was there. And he says, I'm coming back to Texas with you. What? Yeah, I'm coming back to Texas with you. I'm like, dude, you're married. And his wife was amazing. I said, dude, Tiffany's not interested. I'm coming back to Texas. Okay. And he came back to Texas with us, and he followed Tiffany around for months, left his wife. Yeah, I was amazed. To this day, I'm amazed. And then finally, after a couple months, went back to California. But yeah, he had it bad. He had it bad. And Tiffany was that pretty, and had nothing to do with the guy. They never slept together, but he was just enamored of Tiffany.
Wow. Yeah, you certainly have been around a lot of different social circles, and you dealt with a lot of the early people within the UFC organization. How would you describe your relationship with James Wormy?
You may begin speaking now.
What's up, Andy?
You?
All right. So before we get into the IFC Ukraine stuff, which is pretty incredible, like it was a benchmark for a lot happening with the UFC and them weeding out some of the people that worked for them. Let's talk about, like, if you're open to it, the things surrounding why you are housed in a federal penitentiary.
Sure.
Like I'm kind of hesitant to ask you questions because I don't want to affect your living situation or anything. Okay, well here let's talk about like how you got there.
Okay, my attorney and I had a prisoner outreach program. So let's say you get out of prison, and you need a place to live, you need a job, blah blah blah. So he and I had helped quite a few people in the past. So there's one particular guy, he gets out, and we helped him out. I gave him a job. I let him stay in my pool house for a little while. And then it was rumored that he was back in the drug business. So we kicked him out of the house and pretty much ostracized him. I told him, stay away from me, stay away from my clubs, stay away from my people, and that's it. So every now and then we would run into him. 3 years go by, and I would see him, once every couple of months, at a club somewhere or something. And then all of a sudden, 38 cops, 2 drug dogs, a tank, and a helicopter hit my house, destroy it, and wouldn't tell me what they were looking for. Finally, one of the lieutenants came over and said, "Boy, we need that big safe of yours." I said, "Well, tell me why you're here." So he said, "You know a guy named Thomas Gary?" I said, "Yeah, I do." I said, he don't live here." He said, "Well, we're looking for drugs." I said, "Well, you're in the wrong house." I said, "We don't even drink in this house. The strongest thing I've got is tea from China." So next thing you know, I'm indicted for drug conspiracy. During trial, and you can look all this up online, during trial, the prosecutor, the prosecutor alluded to the fact that I had nothing to do with drugs. The head DEA agent, Officer Brown, said, as far as we're concerned at the DEA, Mr. Anderson has nothing to do with drugs. The IRS agent said that I've had Mr. Anderson's paperwork for tax returns for 6 months. He said there's no evidence he's ever laundered money. And I was still found guilty. Judge was keeping the juries out from 8 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. First time they came back, hung jury. Second time, hung jury. Third time, they came back and the judge said, he asked for what's called an Allen charge. And the judge said, well, the government has spent a lot of time and money proving its case against Mr. Anderson. I know you'll do the right thing. Hour and 45 minutes later, they came out. 2 of the juries were crying. I was found guilty. In closing arguments, the judge said, in no uncertain terms, Mr. Anderson doesn't have a criminal history like his cohorts, and this is something that will weigh heavily against him. He gave me 30 years for drug conspiracy and 20 years for money laundering. This is my first offense of anything.
Okay. Well, here, there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with their initial offering. What were they offering initially?
They wanted my money for the most part, and they wanted. I had cars and $3 million in jewelry and $8 million in cash in the bank and all that. And so what had happened was there were other people getting 2 years. I asked my attorney, "Hey, look, I know I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. If they're offering me 2 years, and I know how the feds work, if they're offering me 2 years, let's do it." And he said, no. You're both factually and legally innocent. We're going to win this. What I didn't know was if I took a plea, my attorney could only get $50,000, $60,000 from me. But if I went to trial, he could charge me $1 million, and he did. That's why we went to trial. If you're accused of a federal crime in the United States, you will go to prison. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way out of it. Whether you're guilty or not, whether you did it or not, I didn't know how it worked. I do now. If you're accused of a crime, you will go to prison.
Yeah, so Andy, what our listeners need to know, and you feel free to Google the federal success rate when prosecuting somebody. It's in the high 90s percentage. But what they don't tell you is that oftentimes there's a large percent. I shouldn't say large. The cases that aren't strong enough for them oftentimes get kicked down to the regional courts, where they've got a high 90s percentage rate of success with those as well. So it's you got to assume that every single phone call you've made in the last 9 months has been heard. You also got to imagine that they want a guilty plea and that they're going to put in charges that you're not guilty of in the same group of charges that you're okay with accepting. And it's done just to kind of magnify. You're locked up with Tiger King right now, correct?
Yeah, great guy. And if you knew his whole story, a lot of people don't like him because of the Netflix thing, but if you knew his whole story, you would think differently.
Wait, here, let's subtract his personality and his outlandish behavior. We can all agree, funny, yes, despicable, probably.
No.
Inappropriate. Yeah, all of that stuff. But let's really kind of look at the surface level with him. And in essence, the people wearing the wire also
This call is from a federal prison.
Also gave him hard drugs, got him wound up, kept giving him hard drugs, and kept getting him wind up until they got the sound bite that they wanted. Right?
That is exactly what happened. And then,
so now they get the sound bite after supplying him with hard drugs, and then they go, wait a minute.
When it came to him killing the 2 cats, his vet was with him both times. He killed 2 cats. He sure did. And both of them had terminal diseases. And the vet didn't have anything to put the cats down. And so, yes, he killed 2 endangered species that were going to die a horrible death anyway. Yeah,
but it's like, 30 years for what? A guy that's all drugged up on stuff that you gave him while recording him, while taunting him. Like, is that justice? And like with you, let's talk about yourself. How much drugs did they find on your person?
None.
Okay. How many controlled? Let me finish. How many controlled buys? How many controlled buys did they have through you?
None.
Okay. How many controlled buys did they have in your establishment with some of your employees?
None.
How many years you serving?
30 years. I've been down almost 17. 30 years for the drugs and 20 years for money laundering. I've never even smoked marijuana.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Not one person ever accused me of buying, selling. Even during trial, they said Mr. Anderson has never bought, sold, or possessed drugs at any time. There's no evidence. Okay, how am I here?
Well, wasn't there a person that testified against you?
Yeah, his name was Steve Adams, and then so he was released finally, and on his deathbed, he gave a confession to an attorney, and he was sworn in, saying, look, the prosecutor gave me a deal, it's called a 5K1, and gave me 8 years off my sentence if I made the story up against Anderson. And so, yeah,
yep.
So it's in the records.
So think about this. We're charging you with the crime that you did, but if you write a story down about this person, we're going to knock this much time off. It's like you're incentivizing somebody for manufacturing.
He killed his girlfriend, cut her up in little pieces, and drove around with her in the trunk of his car for 3 days. And you're going to take his word over mine.
Well, he also got less time than you.
Oh, yeah, he got 18 years.
like there's actual criminals, like here in Chicago, we just had a guy from house arrest. Like almost killed somebody, then shot at the police, was placed on house arrest, and took 30 total years, but they subtracted the time that he was fighting his case on actual house arrest. It's insane.
It really is. And when it's on a federal level, it's whatever they want to give you. It doesn't matter what you pay for an attorney. It's not going to do any good. They do whatever they want to do, regardless of the law. I won in the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit found that the government knowingly intentionally used fabricated material against me at trial. So it handed it down to the district judge for a new trial. And the district judge says, no. I filed an appeal. Usually you get released at that point. I filed an appeal. The Fifth Circuit, after 14 months, finally answered and said, well, even though we concur with Anderson, we're not going to overrule his judge. Wow.
Talk to me about life where you're at right now.
Well, this is much nicer than where I started. I went from court to isolation for a year and never been in jail for my life. And I was in a hole for a year in the very back of a corner with no one near me to talk to. I honestly think they tried to break me. And then they sent me to a maximum security prison, Beaumont, USP. It's called Bloody Beaumont. 2 or 3 people get stabbed a week. 2 or 3 people get killed a month. And I was at Bloody Beaumont for several years. And then I went to Beaumont Medium, which was actually worse.
This call is from a federal prison.
I was there for several years. This place here is, I've been here 3 years. I've been here 8 years and haven't been stabbed yet. So this is much better.
Have you run into any other famous people or notorious people?
A mafia hitman by the name of Mike Spinelli. He just got out of prison and went to New York after 32 years. He was pretty nefarious.
You still there?
Yeah, I said he was pretty nefarious, yeah.
Oh, yeah. How was he to live with?
Great guy. I mean, really nice. He's probably my favorite serial killer. Really is.
That's crazy. That sounds. And living conditions good?
Yeah, I have a terrific job. I'm relatively intelligent. I'm in charge of all their electronics, all their fiber optics, their fire suppression systems, the phones, the computers, the TVs. If it turns on, I'm in charge of it.
And they don't have video conferences where you're held at, correct?
No, they don't. Some prisons they do, but it has. They've just wired it recently for just for that. Eventually, we will have it, but everything works very slow in the federal system.
So, is there an outreach program that you're working with right now in order to try to help reduce? It's
called the Clemency Project. Well, it's a couple different names. It's Clemency Project Texas, and it's also the Clemency Project. It's on Instagram. It's got its own website. They're doing a great job. I mean, they're really advocates for people that were wrongly accused or people that got draconian sentences. And also, I'm with the 8th largest attorneys in the world. They took my case pro bono, and that's Goldman Turig, and there are thousands and thousands of attorneys all over the world but they're also working on my release as well.
Okay. When we interviewed Bob Meyrowitz, he had mentioned that he helped you while you were fighting your case and your situation.
No. I reached out to Bob. I got bond. Most people don't get bond. I reached out to Bob, and I really wanted his brother's information because his brother's one of the top attorneys. He didn't financially help me, but Bob and I still consider him a good friend. But I didn't need any financial help at that point.
Okay.
But no,
he gave you guidance. He gave you guidance.
We still talk, yeah.
Good. Okay, well, if you're available, I mean, I know we're coming up on 15 minutes. Our next phone conversation, why don't we talk about what took place in Ukraine, the fallout, the people
crazy.
there, the mafia stuff.
Okay, I'll call you back.
My man. Thanks, bro.
You may begin speaking now.
Andy. So let's talk about March 30th, 1996. The IFC makes their debut in Ukraine. Buddy Albin is the promoter. Ron Van Clief is there. Leon Spinks is there. And Charlie Anzalone is the DJ. And I think David Rudman also has got his fingers in the mix. So I know you're there as well. And there was a lot of conjecture and rumors in regards to this event. But let's just start from the beginning.
Okay. Prior to that, Buddy tells me, he's got a fight coming up, and he's trying to negotiate it, and he wants me to go with him to Kiev. Okay, sure. Haven't been there in a while. Let's go. I went with him. And I was sponsored by an ex-KGB guy by the name of Yuri. And it's not really, back then it was not easy to get into Kiev, and I'm sure it's that way now. So anyway, we looked at the venue, an Olympic training center where everybody's going to be working out, where everybody's going to be staying, and got all the details pretty much worked out. But you're dealing with 4 different groups of 4 different ex-KGB guys. So it's 4 new Russian mafia is what it is. And they're relatively new. So we're dealing with...
Let me interject. I apologize. So in essence, what happens is Russia falls, and the KGB teams up with the mafia, and they kind of come together, and in essence, they take over the entire region. Am I off on this?
No. The KGB is the new mafia.
Right. Well, they
got rid of the old mafia. They're gone.
They got rid of they pretty much overthrew the country. The KGB and the mafia kind of just blend in together, and now you're there.
So we're there, and we work out a lot of details, and okay, cool. So it sounds great. So we go back to the States, and then there's a fight in Biloxi, Mississippi that Buddy puts on, and this fight went well. Anthony Macias fought in it. A bunch of guys fought in it. It was a great fight. And Howard Pester was also involved in the UFC. I'm sorry, the IFC at that time. And Howard was also in the Ukraine later. So the fight goes off without a hitch. So Buddy disappears with the fighter's purse and all their money. And Buddy has been ripping these people off for years and years and years. But Buddy is a born car salesman. What I didn't know is I went to check out of my hotel, and here Buddy is in the penthouse. And he got there before I did, and he rented the penthouse. So I get there. Fight went great. Everything's fine. Buddy rips everybody off. I go to check out, and lo and behold, he has used my credit card not only for his room, but for all the fighters' rooms. And he's even charged stuff using my credit card, T-shirts and all kinds of other stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, and just ran out my credit card like you wouldn't believe. Needless to say, I'm not happy. A couple months go by, and I haven't talked to Buddy at all. So I get a phone call. The fight in Kiev is on, and these guys have been there for 2 weeks, and they're doing all these photo ops and all this, and so a couple of the guys are friends of mine, and they're like, hey, look, man, they're not feeding us any meat. They're hardly feeding us at all. They took our passports. We have nothing, and we're worried because their referee, you can fight to death over here, and the referee's not going to stop it. And no one speaks Ukrainian. And they're like, please come over here. Please come over here. So, all right. So I hop in a fucking jet. I fly over there, and
This call is from a federal prison.
And into Buddy. And Buddy's, I apologize for this and this and this, and your money's going to come right off the gate and this and this. So Buddy hadn't paid these people, hadn't paid nothing, hadn't paid for their food, nothing. So I pull $5,000 out of my pocket, and I make sure these guys are taken care of. They take them to real restaurants. They feed them real food, and because some of these people that are in this fight are friends of mine. Some of them, like Howard Peschler, he was a friend of mine, and some of these people dealing with Buddy again for the umpteenth time are trying to get some of their money back. So I pull $5,000 out of my pocket, and it goes a long way in Kiev, trust me. So we go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. No, I got you. Okay. Uh-huh.
So I end up refereeing every single fight because our guys, the Americans, it was virtually America versus Russia is really what it was. So Buddy Albin is telling everybody, and so here I look at the ring, and it's got a UFC emblem on it. I said, well,
you're talking about the mat. You're talking about the...
Yeah, the mat has a UFC emblem on it. I said, whoa, what the hell is this? And I said, does Bob know about this? And Buddy had just recently got fired. And he says, oh, yeah. He says, I've got the rights to it. I said, you got the what? I got the rights to it. So I called Bob. I said, Bob, this is Andy. I'm in Kiev. I said, what are you doing there? Long story. I said, is Buddy allowed to use your logo on his ring? He says, you're kidding me. So, hours before the fight, Rob gets a hold of Buddy. Buddy has to paint over. So if you ever see any of those videos, Buddy has to paint over with black paint all the UFC logos that he uses. And,
I apologize. I'm going to tell you this right now. Bob Meyrowitz in the courtroom was an absolute savage. He and his brother were savages. Oh,
there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Bob is one of the smartest, most articulate men you'd ever want to meet. So, and Buddy is telling all the fighters and all the other people involved, Bob paid me $1 million to cover it up. You do what? Okay, whatever you say.
Well, that must mean everyone's getting paid. That's right?
Yeah, right. So then the fight goes off without a hitch. I mean, some of them were great fights, and that was one of Igor Vovchanchyn's biggest first fights back in the day.
It was, he fought 3 Americans. It was an 8-man tournament, and it was kind of his
debut.
It was, it was his 15th or 16th fight, but it was his first, what Americans noticed, who is this guy?
Right. And he and I hit it off right away.
This call is from a federal prison.
I'm sorry. A funny anecdote was I was asking the fighters, what is taking you guys so long? And he says, I'm so sorry, Mr. Anderson. We only have one support. I said, one what? One support. You mean jockstrap? Yes, we have one. You're kidding me. So they were all using the same jockstrap.
Okay.
The same color.
So Ron Van Clief, and we're going to get into the stolen tapes and all of the hijinks and the mafia stuff, but let's give a little build to it. All right. So Ron Van Clief fights Royce Gracie. Has a good showing. He's an older guy, very well respected, the Black Dragon, and they named him the UFC commissioner in 94 and 95 is what's listed on Wikipedia. But nobody addresses the fact that he does this show as the commissioner, and then he's persona non grata from the UFC.
Yeah. Yeah, and he actually, during my fight when I was eye gouged in UFC 5, he's the one that said, hold up, I mean, are you going to let this stand? And he's the one that came back and said, hey, look, this guy's disqualified. If you can continue, we're going to let you continue. And Ron is very well respected, knows everything about the business, and great guy. But whenever Buddy crossed Bob Meyrowitz, that's it. You're done. You're done. And so that's exactly what happened to Ron Van Clief.
Yeah, he keeps committing to an interview, and then he goes, I can't get him to sit down. All right, so Leon Spinks is there as well. Right.
I sat down with Leon, and I didn't know him that well, and he's down on his luck. His brother, according to Leon, spent all of his money, invested it, stole it, used it for drugs, whatever. And Leon's telling me the story, and I'm like, wow, this is just sad. And he's been punched at that point one too many times. And so, 1 minute he's clear, and the next minute he's kind of foggy. But he told me the whole story about his life story. And so he was there as a big-time celebrity. And in the Ukraine, he was a huge celebrity still.
I mean, it's arguably the greatest boxing family ever.
Right. There's no doubt.
Yeah. I mean, no, not a logical one. So Leon Spinks is there. The rumor was that Buddy got like a government contract to bring the UFC there, made all the promises, signed the contracts, and he'd be receiving funds for the UFC showing up there, which is why he came with the logos.
That is pretty much absolutely spot on. And he was, and I don't even know where you got your information, but yeah, you're pretty well spot on. And so at the end of the fight, and the fight went great. I mean, some of the fights were just terrific. And I refereed every fight that was there because our guys were scared to death. And so the fight's over. And lo and behold, where's Buddy? Buddy has disappeared. Where's Howard Peschler? Howard Peschler got the tapes and disappeared. Howard went one direction. Buddy went another direction. And the fighters are stuck at Olympic Training Center with 30-foot walls around it, Constantine barbed wire around that, and armed guards inside and outside the pavilion. It was not fun.
So did Peschler take the tapes because there was issues with the mafia and they were holding it, or was he holding it hostage so he could get paid?
A little of both. So we weren't allowed to leave. Some of the fighters left from the venue, but by the time we got back to the Olympic Training Center, some of us were stuck there. Me, one other fighter, and an Hispanic fight promoter. I think I sent you a picture of him just the other day. We were in Russia, but I forgot his name, and he was real good friends with Bas Rutten, so we were stuck there. And so Yuri comes in, Yuri, who I know, comes into my room with two armed guards.
Is this a Sambo guy, Yuri?
I'm sorry? No. This is a Russian oligarch. This is Russian KGB.
Fair enough.
And so he comes in, he says, Andy, hey, the fight went great, blah, 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 blah. Buddy stole the money from the gate. And Peschler guy, he stole the tapes. So we're going to have you do another fight. I said, nah, maybe you don't understand. Me and my boys are out of here. You don't understand. This is not an option. Wow. Okay, this is bad. So we were actually held there against our will for a few days. And like I said,
John Dixon talked about this. John Dixon said that they were forced to fight a second day. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were not only talking about that, they were talking about moving us to Georgia and having us fight for them in Georgia. And then when we left Georgia, I'm like, what? I mean, that's it. I mean, we were slave labor at that point.
You're going to be entertaining whatever it is that they had in front of them.
Yeah, wherever it is, right? And I I could go on for hours about what happened in Kiev. Oh my God. It's memorialized in 2 books, one called Brawl and the other one, Mixed Martial Arts: The Evolution by Clyde Gentry. And
Gentry did a really good job. Yeah.
He did, he really did. And so the story about Kiev is in there. And so we were pretty much held against our will, and there's no way out. And then security lightened up, and they just gave us 1 guard. Okay, cool. Hey, do you think you maybe take us to eat somewhere? Maybe take us to see the sights? After a little while, yeah, I can do that. And I had money, of course. So the phone's about to die. I'll call you back.
Call, press 5. To block this call and all future calls, press 7. You may begin speaking now.
What's up, dude?
Another day.
Yeah, a little. You guys watching the game or something?
No, I'm not a sports fan. Unless somebody's getting beat up, I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's the football championships. I figure that's why you're getting all this phone time.
Nah, I got a phone.
It's good. Yeah, you got all this phone time. I appreciate that, man. So let's continue about the IFC Ukraine event.
Yeah.
Remember where you left off?
Yeah, I remember where I was. Allow me to digress, though, prior to that. So before the fight, Buddy takes all of us out to a club. And then Bas Rutten and Rutten Paul and a couple other fighters, Paul Varelans, went to this topless club. And so Paul jumps on Bas's shoulder. Bas he warns him, he says, man, get off me. And you know how big Paul Varelans is, and 300-some pounds. So Bas throws him off of him. He hits a plate glass window and cuts his arm pretty bad to the point he has to be taken to a hospital. Later on that night, we're drinking, Bas and I, and we do that quite frequently. And Bas gets up on the stage. Well, security has a machine gun, and there's only one guy there with one machine gun. So the guy's screaming at Bas in Ukrainian, get down, Davie, and Bas motions for him to come over, and the guy leans into Bas, and Bas bitch slaps him. So the security guard walks into another room, brings back 4 or 5 security guards, and they all have machine guns. I run up to the stage, Bas, come here, and do the same thing to Bas he just did to the security guard. And I throw Bas over my shoulder and carry Bas out the door. And as we're coming out the door, Bas starts to wake up. And I said, come on, guys, it's time to go. So I turn quickly, and Bas's head hits the same plate glass window that he just put Paul Varelans through earlier that night. Cuts the side of his head. Bas is out again. When we get to the van, Bas wakes up. Bas decides he's going to urinate on the driver. I tell Bas, look, I don't know where we are. I don't even know the name of where we're staying. I just know it's an Olympic Training Center. Please don't do that. No, he urinates on the driver. It's 30 below zero. The driver pulls over in the middle of the highway, screaming, cussing, mad. I give the driver a handful of money, motion him back in the car. And I said, Bas, please don't do that. And Bas is like, okay, you promise I can kill him when we get to the hotel. Bas, when we get to the hotel, you do whatever you want. So Bas wakes up again. I subdue him, put him in the back of the car. Bas is trying to piss on the guy again. Finally, Bas passes out. The door opens, and Bas falls out in the snow unconscious. I put Bas in his room, and about an hour later, I hear a horrible ruckus, and Bas has destroyed his room, broken his TV, urinated on his own bed. So I put Bas in my room. Bas wakes up the next morning, and he looks around, and he said, wow, and I'm sleeping on the floor. What happened? I said, Bas, you destroyed your room, and he said, why am I here? Well, you destroyed your room, and then you destroyed my room. Well, what happened to the TV? I said, well, apparently it was going to attack you in the middle of the night, so that's 2 TVs you broke. So Bas says, why didn't you sleep in the bed? Because you pissed in it, Bas. That's why I didn't sleep in the bed. So, needless to say, that was before the fight. And so that's the Bas story with Paul Varelans. So as I continue forward. So we were held against our will, me and a couple of fighters and a fight promoter. And so I talked the driver into taking us around. He took us to get something to eat, lunch during the day, and then took us to a museum. And, of course, this guy has a gun, and we didn't. So, and he speaks broken English, and I speak broken Ukrainian. And one thing leads to another. And I said, look, well, we're leaving. We're going to go to the airport. We can do this one of a couple ways. I can hand you a handful of money, and we can go to the airport, or I can not hand you a handful of money, and I'm taking your car, and I'm going to the airport. So I hand him a handful of money, and we go to the airport. So we make it to the airport, and airport over there is a little different. So you have little bitty tiny rooms, the size of a mop closet. And if they're open, then they're open for business. If they're not open, then they're closed. And we went from room to room to room. Finally, we found a couple open. One is going further into the Ukraine. Another one's going further into Russia. And
this call is from a federal prison.
We wanted out of the country. And finally, I find one going to Paris. Of course, we wanted to go back to the U.S., but you know what? Paris is out of Russia. It's out of the Ukraine. Let's go. So I buy everybody tickets, and we ended up spending a week in Paris. And that was our escape from the Ukraine. Howard Peschler's escape was a little different. He ended up taking a train all around the Ukraine before he finally got out. And everybody had their own little escape story.
So what was the issue with the local mafia in the tapes?
Because Buddy ripped them off. Buddy got the money from the gate, and Buddy left with a satchel of money. And so I never got paid for the money prior to that, the Biloxi issue where he used my credit card. I never got paid for the $5,000 I fronted to all the fighters. So, of course, I never got paid for anything. The gate was supposed to be split 60-40. Buddy was supposed to get 60, and the Russian Mafia was supposed to get 40. Well, Buddy left with all of it. And the Howard Peschler got out of there with the tapes. And Buddy, and which he was supposed to get the tapes anyway. And the Russian Mafia was supposed to get a percentage of the tapes. But they wanted the tapes. And so they were after Peschler for the tapes. They were after Buddy for the money. And since they didn't get either, they were going to keep us and going to make us continue to fight.
So do you think Peschler knew it was a grab and go, like from the jump, when it came to with Buddy Albin?
You know, dealing with Buddy, that's what walking into it, that's what you have to understand is, and like I said, he's a car salesman. And I'm sure if somebody talks to him, if you ever interviewed him, he's probably dead now, but if you ever interviewed him, you get a totally different spin. But I have no reason to sugarcoat it, and countless other people would back me up on everything I said. That's Buddy. He's a car salesman, and you know you want to believe the guy, but no, you can't. And he ran away with countless money, countless fighters' purses. It's just it's ridiculous.
So Igor Vovchanchyn, what was his reputation going into this tournament?
Well, great fighter, and then he was pretty much their number one hope. And there was one guy that just got beat mercilessly, and then I asked him, I said, look, man, I said, you know, his shoulder was popped out of place. I asked him, I said, you know, why did you not stop? I said, you know, there's no way you could have won. And he said, well, I was hoping the guy that was hitting me would get tired. Really? Okay. And he says, I make more. If I lose the fight, he said, I make more than I work within working for 6 months. If I win the fight, I make more for winning the fight than I make in 2 years. He said, so to take an ass beating and to get paid that much money? Yes, beat me all day.
Wow. Was Art Davie involved in any of this?
Not at all. Not at all. Bob had done cut ties with Davies.
See, it started right around this time. When we interviewed David Isaacs, he had alluded that, like around Puerto Rico is when they kind of found out about this, and that Davie was one of the people helping out.
No. Had nothing to do with it. Oh, helping out. Art Davies? Yeah.
Art Davie's helping out with the IFC Ukraine show.
No, not at all. Not at all. Davies had nothing to do with it at all. Isaacs had nothing to do with it. None of those guys did. That was all a Buddy thing. And Buddy, like I said,
no. Here, just so there's. I think I'm not being clear. So the belief was that David Isaacs, on the UFC side, was that Art was planning on leaving and doing his own thing and was subverting the UFC and may have been one of the people with Buddy Albin to help plan this Ukraine show.
No, not at all. Not at all. Didn't happen. And see, in Puerto Rico, that's where Buddy had lost his mind. And Bob sent him home, just sent him packing. Because, like I said, Buddy didn't realize that I was at the same meeting.
This call is from a federal prison.
I was at the same meeting he was, and he didn't realize it. He had drank himself almost to death.
Yeah.
And he's just lost his mind.
Now, David Rudman, do you remember working with him?
No, not a fan. I'm terrible at names, though. I mean, you show me a picture. Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, that's fair. So Pride 7, September 12th, 1999, you're cornering Anthony Macias versus Sakuraba.
Right. Yeah, and Anthony was in great shape. Probably was some of the best shape he's ever been in. We were training hard for that. He was good to go. And like the day before the fight, and there was also the day of the fight, there was an earthquake. And so Anthony ran down 54 flights of stairs because he didn't want to stay in the hotel. I was hungover. I wasn't going to get up. So he ran down 54 flights of stairs and then ran back up 54 flights of stairs. And so we're off to the fight. But the day before, you could tell he wasn't himself. He was a little off. And at that time, Sakuraba was just like Anderson Silva. He was a beast. Sakuraba was a beast. One of the best fighters in his era. He really was. And I honestly think Anthony had a chance, but I think Anthony, he beat himself. Because he was in great physical shape. It's just you go up against, if you're a boxer, it's like going up against Muhammad Ali, or Tyson. It's like, okay, I'm good, but damn. I think he beat himself that day.
Did you immerse yourself within the Japanese community, like the mixed martial arts community at all?
I did. I lived in Korea. I lived in Seoul and Busan. And then after Korea, then I lived in Japan for a while, and I lived in Roppongi, which is downtown Tokyo, and studied Ijinryu karate and studied judo, but that really wasn't my forte, and I have the utmost respect for the Asian community, Japanese. They're just amazing people, and that's one of the reasons I got into martial arts is just a respect for those people. They respect one another. They respect their environment. I don't know if you've ever been there, but you go to the Tokyo Dome. There's thousands of people, and you can hear a pin drop when two fighters are in the ring because they respect them. And so if you see a good fighter, a good punch or a good kick, then all you hear is whoosh. It's showing respect, and then there's quiet again. It's amazing the amount of respect they have for fighters.
How would you describe Big John McCarthy's relationship with Bob Meyrowitz?
John and Bob were really, really tight, and actually Bob treated everyone like an employee, except John. John and Bob were very, very tight. They're just, like Bob and I were very, very tight, and I think Bob and McCarthy is very articulate, very intelligent, did really good in court. For us at the UFC, and just a smart guy, and those two, they got along really, really well.
Big John McCarthy's memory in regards to fight recall is absolutely frightening. It's so good.
Yeah. Like I said, he's very articulate and intelligent individual. He really is. And in the beginning, he didn't know the game, but buddy, he learned the game. and he learned the rules, and he learned the law, and how it against John McCain, and how it intersected in what we were trying to do.
Let's talk about John Perretti. You obviously saw the transition from Art Davie to John Perretti. Before Perretti comes over to the UFC, what was his reputation like?
He was having some personal issues at the time. He was having some cancer scares, but as far as business-wise, I mean, he really knew the game, and he knew how the game should be played, and he was all for fighters making a fair wage, and that's something I was fighting for forever. Is just, UFC people just were not making any money. I mean, I spend more on gas in my plane getting to a fight than I would make in a fight. And it's just, Perretti was a consummate professional at what he did, and he was ahead of his years as far as what the UFC.
You may begin speaking now.
So, Andy, continue about John Perretti.
Yeah, John Perretti. I really think at that time he was really ahead of the game, and I really wish that Bob and him could have worked out their differences. But at that point, I think that Perretti was probably one of the catalysts to relieving Art Davie of his duty. And I think Bob's special power is he likes to pit one another against each other. And somehow he usually gets the best out of everyone when he does that. I've seen him work it. He's a master manipulator. But I really think Perretti brought a lot to the game, especially back then.
So with Perretti, obviously, it was done to transition from Art Davie. How would you describe Meyrowitz and Perretti's relationship from Meyrowitz's point of view?
Like I said, Bob's a puzzle master, and he uses everyone to his best advantage. Peretti really knew the game, and Bob didn't. And I think that's where probably some of the problem lied, is because Bob's looking at it as a financial aspect, and Peretti's looking at it as the future of MMA. This is where we are, and this is where we're trying to go. And I believe that Bob was trying to run a business, and Perretti was trying to build a legacy.
Was it as contentious as it was, his relationship with Perretti, as it was Art Davie?
I think
because when you watch it was worse.
I think it was worse. Yeah, I was on the ground floor and I saw it. I mean, I think it was worse. Because Peretti, he was especially back then, he was a no nonsense kind of guy, and I think there were two A personalities locked in a very small room, and Bob wanted it done one way. And as far as the financial aspect, and I think Perretti was trying to build a legacy. I mean, the UFC is, in my opinion, back then and especially now, the Olympics of mixed martial arts. I mean, it's where everything, all the different arts culminated together, and it is what it is today. And without Bob and Perretti and Davies and the Gracies, it wouldn't be what it is. And what it is now is amazing.
Okay, so him and Art never see eye to eye. You can clearly see that when you watch the early UFCs. Like, there's a lot of issues there.
Right.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah, 100%.
He brings in John Perretti, and those issues don't subside. They actually escalate. Is that what you're saying?
But that, and I think that Davies was looking for a way out at that point, and I think Bob was just trying to help him out the door. But
wow.
I think Bob probably thought, okay, things are going to get better, things are going to get less contentious, you're going to do what I say, you're going to do what I want, and Peretti's just not that guy.
When did you know John Perretti was in trouble?
The day he started.
Really? What was he said behind his back?
Well, because Perretti.
This call is from a federal prison.
I'm sorry, Perretti. Like I said, he's an A-class personality, and so is Bob. And you get those two people in the room, and if no one's willing to give up any space, then it's just not going to work. And from day one, that's what it was. It's like Perretti was like, well, here's what we should do. Here's what we're, and then, like I said, Perretti was trying to start an organization that's already been started, and he's just trying to clean house. And then Perretti, it was his way or the highway, and the same thing with Meyrowitz. It's my way or the highway, and it's Bob's show.
Yeah, Bob definitely wanted people in the Perretti and Art Davie seats to understand that it was his show. But when it came to camera time, both Davie and Perretti liked to have their time on camera as well.
And the guy behind the scenes was Lucas, and he was the producer. And to see that guy work is just amazing. I mean, amazing. All behind the scenes. He's in the truck, and he was. I loved him, and I loved working with him. But a lot of people did not like working with Lucas. And he really, he put it all together. He really knows his job. And there's so much behind the scenes that people don't even realize that without these people, this puzzle wouldn't be a puzzle. It'd just be a bunch of stuff laying in a pile. And Lucas really put it all together. He did a great job. And then Davies had his part, and Perretti has his part. But from the get-go, I didn't think Perretti was going to mesh with, because it's already an organization that's been going on for a while, and they're all set in their ways, and Perretti's set in his way, and just, wow, it was a train wreck, and it's one of those things you just can't turn away from, because it's going to be a mess, and it was a mess.
The matchmaking went up substantially once Perretti went there as well. To me, it went from, it transitioned to the modern era of mixed martial arts very, very fast, and that came under the dealings with Perretti.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, from the get-go, he knows his game. He was so far ahead of the game. He knew what a good fight looked like and what a good fight was going to look like. And he was a master at what he did. And I really wished he would have hung in there. But that's Bob. When he's done, he's done with you, he's done. And Perretti's that way, and it just, yeah. It's two of the same people. It's two sides of the same coin.
All right, so Meyrowitz wants out. Everybody knows it. And he's advertising it. They're going broke. They're having issues. He's tired of defending the UFC legally. And groups of people, including Dana White and his crew of people, come forward to purchase the UFC. At the exact same time, John Perretti is forming his group to purchase the UFC. And it appeared there was a little duplicity on the Meyrowitz side to kind of pull the carpet out from Perretti's feet so he couldn't purchase it. Did you ever witness any of that?
I believe that. I didn't see it firsthand, but I believe it. And, Bob ran up a $10 million legal bill, that also had to be paid, and then nobody bothers to tell you that. He spent $10 million in legal fees that had to be paid before he sold it. And these legal fees had to be paid. And that was one of the holding points between all these other people. Bob's like, okay, I'll sell it to you, but, you're going to take care of my outstanding legal fees as well. And a lot of that went to his brother. But I was pretty sure that Perretti wasn't going to get it, even though he was on the inside track. He should have got it. I wish he would have got it.
What made you so sure that he wasn't going to get it?
Like I said, when Bob's done with you, you're done. You're done. And I don't think Bob would. It's kind of like, I told you once, Bob said to me, he said, I'd hire you except for two things. He said, one, he said, you got your own jet. He said, two, I like to hold the fact that I could fire you at any time over your head. And so kind of like with Perretti, it's like when I'm done with you, I'm not going to sell you the company.
This call is from a federal prison.
Employee, and you're done. That's just my opinion. Now, I don't have anything to back that, but it's just my opinion.
So here, no, and I understand that, and I mean, I kind of broke this news to John, which he was kind of surprised by hearing it. And another thing, it seemed like Dan Lambert got involved on the John Perretti side, just so he wouldn't try to track down other investors. Like it put John in a holding pattern while other people were scrambling in order to make ends meet.
Well, and a lot of times, you'll take a bid even though you're not going to sell it to this guy, just to bring the bid up.
Yeah, but I think it was a hollow bid. Like, I don't think there was money there.
No, there wasn't, but,
my theory in regards to Dan Lambert, that is something that I've pieced together myself, and I have got no clue. I believe I'm in the ballpark, but I'm not sure. Is there any relevance or a foundation to what I just said to you in regards to Dan Lambert, or am I off?
He wasn't even in the ballpark. It was just, like you said, I don't. Bob didn't even recognize that as legitimate. And, keep in mind, Bob's brother is a legal genius. Bob is a legal genius. And when it comes to money, I mean, Bob does his due diligence. And, okay, do you really have this money? Can you really come up with this money?
Yeah, they're brilliant. Like, it's, I had one interview with Bob Meyrowitz, and I was blown away by his brilliance.
Yeah. We were in New York at the Four Seasons, and Oprah Winfrey and her best buddy was there, and I forgot her name. So she comes over, and she's like, Mr. Meyrowitz, and we were negotiating to buy the Pope's prayer book at that time. Pope John Paul, he was still alive. And Mr. Meyrowitz, I've been calling your office, and Bob and I have been drinking martinis all day. I've been calling your office for days, and Oprah and I are in town, and she'd like to sit down and talk to you. Bob looks over and he says, keep going. But yeah, Bob's something.
Mm-hmm. What's your fondest memory while being with the UFC?
God, there's so many. I just, it's kind of like the gathering, and every single fight brought you something new, something different. And it was, you have all these different fighters from all around the world, all these different styles, and, you get together a day or two before the fight, and you have drinks and kick it, and then after the fight, during the fight, everybody hates each other, and then after the fight, you all sit down, yeah. You tell horror stories and war stories, and it's just a camaraderie. And it was.
Do you think Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Do you think the UFC changed some of the rules because they were anti-Coleman?
Oh, definitely. Coleman. There was a lot of scuttlebutt about that, and whether that this is why they did it. But now there's so many different factors. And so many different things weighed into that. The new laws and weighed a lot into that. And the Congress was against us. The congressmen against us. Senators against us. Politicians are against us. And it was just one thing after another. And they have to conform. I mean, I love the beauty of the no rules, anything goes. Okay, we got a couple rules. No eye gouging and biting. Yeah, that didn't work out well for me. But the point is that's why we had to conform.
No, I get that. They had to make it palatable, right?
Yeah, to everyone.
Okay, and I get that. But do you think behind closed doors they intentionally tilted the table against Mark Coleman?
A lot of people have told me that. And I never sat in on a meeting that said this is why we're doing this. But
what are your thoughts?
I'm thinking, yeah. So I was never privy to that meeting.
No concrete evidence. I mean, nobody said anything but your belief. Right?
You know, hey, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, yeah, it's a duck. So yeah. I was there doing all that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna edit that together. Mark Coleman's gonna like that little clip. We're gonna make sure that he's tagged on that one. Andy, close this one out, man. What do you want to say to your friends, family, and no, we're gonna close this one out. Let me know, like, friends, family, stuff like that.
Hey, you know, I want to thank everybody for supporting me, you know, since I've been in here. You know, but you know, still, it is what it is, and it's not all about me. You know, I thank everyone for listening. Your podcast is excellent. What you do is excellent, and it's an education. And like I say, the UFC and MMA, it's wow, it's an old sport, but it's a new sport, and I'm just proud of you people for keeping it going.
Well, this is what we're gonna do. This is part one. I got to feel it out. Like, you all day long, you've been calling me. And it's like every 10 to 12 minute phone call, you got to wait 35 to 40 minutes to give me a call, which, I mean, my wife's, I mean, we've been doing this 12 hours. And on top of that, like, I have a feeling that this is going to open up a lot more questions for part two in regards to the history, because, I mean, you were there for everything. You had no skin in the game, but you certainly helped out. Like, you weren't afraid to put your credit card on the line, and you had a lot more access than people that actually worked there because of that. And we're disconnected.
I know these take a lot out of you, Mike.
Yeah.
It's an all-day thing to get one of these in the can. So how you feeling, and how do you feel about the final product?
All right, so this is what happened with Andy. He and I have been in communication for longer than actual Rafael Torre and I. And initially it was me balking at it because of the prompt, and they don't have video where he's at. So, like, not all like facilities are the same. Like the California ones do, but he's in Fort Worth, Texas. So he and I have been going back and forth for a while, and he's actually like one of the more likable guys. And
yeah, he is.
And I'm not like trying to. What I don't want to do is paint a picture of him that's wrong or taint anybody's vision of him. But oftentimes when you and I talk about like the early days of mixed martial arts, what one reoccurring theme is that there's some dark money that comes into play that helps pay for things.
Yeah.
And I'm not accusing him. I'm not accusing him of that for Japan or, you know, the above ground fighting federation and California, you know, Antonio McGee's thing. So, but like, you know, the belief from our government, not mine, of course, right, was that he was washing money for biker gangs. So he's taking more time in prison for people that have taken other people's lives or done horrific things to children. He's like 3x their sentence.
Yeah.
Like taking money that was from ill-gotten goods and then reintroducing it by paying taxes on it.
Right. Yeah. For that, they give you 3 decades. That's nuts.
Like, all right, I'm former law enforcement, 15 years. And I will tell you the federal side has always like infuriated me. Like, it's like, this isn't justice. Like, this isn't what this is fighting crime. You know, Tiger King, he's behind jail, or Michael Nunn. I mean, have you ever looked up the boxer Michael Nunn?
Yes. Yes. Did that make us all safer? No, they set him up on a drug charge, right?
Well, it was like his friend that kept telling him, coercing him to buy like a $300, and I might be wrong on a dollar amount here, but under $1,000 kilo of coke from a friend of his. And then the judge said, well, you could have had a gun when the deal was made.
Oh my God.
Here's your 28 piece.
Yeah, but how are you going to fight them? They have unlimited resources.
Well, here's the thing about federal cases. The only people that actually really fight them are crooked cops and mafia guys. Like there's no real lawyer for federal cases. Like they don't exist because it's so skewed. Like the stuff that would normally get thrown out like, oh, that's hearsay or that's just unfounded. You can't enter that into like a local court case.
Right.
All of that stuff is admissible, and like including like skewing the playing field. Like, hey, Joey, you're about to take 10 years in jail. Like, this is what happened to Andy. We'll knock 8 off, but you got to give us this guy.
Right. Yeah, they're playing that game against you, and then they're playing you off of other guys. It's dirty. It's dirty business.
No.
We all like, tough, fun crime legislation, but if this is what it lands on, that's just bullshit.
No, it's total BS. And here, I guarantee there's somebody in our audience that's looking at federal time or has done it. I'm going to save them tens of thousands of dollars just with this little bit of advice. Let's just say you did it and you're guilty. It's okay. I mean, it happens. You are going to run at the feds after you've been busted, and you're going to say, whoa. Don't even open up the books. Don't. Stop. Everything you've done up until this point, stop. How much time is on the table? And take that.
Yeah.
Let's just say you're an accomplice of somebody and like you're the number 2 guy. What you do is you go there first and you get the best deal possible. You're caught. Everybody's caught. Let's just say like you're the number 3 guy and like they usually don't go down that low in terms of prosecution, but they want you to testify. And there's like a group of people that are all getting questioned. You keep delaying your questioning until everybody else has been questioned. So you go last, essentially. And then when you go last, you just confirm everything that they already know, everything that everybody's already told them, and then you're never going to be a witness.
Will that keep you from being killed as a rat?
Well, I mean, it's already, dude, if the feds got you, it's over.
Right.
Like it's over. And either tell or not tell. And by not telling, the head guy is going to take the guilty plea and go. But if the head guy wants to fight it, he's getting slammed. Like you're getting cracked. Like look at Tiger. Yep. Tiger King's doing like 30 years, dude.
For a methed up rambling spree he went on.
That he was supplied by the people working for the government. Like, come on, dude.
Tiger King, I don't want him as a neighbor, but
no,
in jail for a quarter
30
century.
years. No. Meanwhile, Carol Baskin actually like got away with what it is he was.
That is suspicious.
No, you were going to set up something that she got away with while we fueled your rants, your drug-filled rants with what it was making you crazy. 30 years. Come on, bro. Yeah. Stop it.
It was an entertaining series, but yes, it's very sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad. Like it's sad for everybody. And think about like his family and his loved ones. I don't know. Here, I'm former law enforcement. I think there's shades of gray where we can all agree on that a lot of us don't like. And like I said, tough. We got a guy in Chicago, just took 30 years from house arrest. Like that guy should be waiting his sentence in prison. Like he should be in a pretrial detention facility. And I don't know. There's always more questions than our answers when it comes to law enforcement and their activities. And, it doesn't stop just because you're on, the side of the line that I worked on. Right. I think that's what it comes down to. But it's an interesting series though. Yeah, that we're doing
with this interview. Not only Casey, he is a likable guy. He seems like he's got a great personality, but it also helped that he's a felon. He's not a monster. This guy didn't hurt a woman or a child, it's a lot easier to root for a guy like that.
And then, like the only thing he's guilty of is like think about this. He's always got a jet plane. He's always got a mansion. He's got a wife, and he's always got a few extra women with him. All he had to do was hide a couple cameras, and I guarantee the conversations he's having with us today are much different than where they're at now.
It's true. He was running in some big circles. Very rare for a UFC guy at that time.
Yeah. Dude, come on over. I got the party and the favors.
Yeah. The baby oil.
The baby oil. Yeah, the baby oil. You might be videotaped. And when I need a favor, just give it to me and then we're good. That's it.
Right.
But it's interesting. So we're not stopping with this. Like we obviously we got to follow up with Jared Shaw. He's all in. I think we're going to get 2 more episodes out of him, and then I think the other guys that we got lined up. Paul Buentello, that's another one.
Yes.
I'm trying to get Tim Lasik. I'm having trouble getting him to respond to messages. Um, I don't know. Bob Ostovich, I think we got to go back to Hawaii. And I tell you, another guy that wants to come back on to finish up some of his stuff is John Perretti. So
Yeah.
I think after Paul Buentello, maybe we'll go back to John Perretti and we'll do finish up the Battlecade. We're on the last one, and then we can probably start his UFC booking period.
Yeah, no, he's good for a few more. And
Yeah.
another fighter that reached out was McCorkle.
We got to do it. He's very entertaining.
He is totally entertaining. I just saw on social media he's breeding pit bulls now. That's what his side gig is now.
I believe that.
Me too. I think it's called Big Sexy Pits, I think is what it's called.
I think no matter what Sean does, he's like one of those guys that you enjoy working with him.
Right.
Like there's no end to the hilarity. And everybody that I've talked to that have dealt with him, like on the independent scene, have all said, great guy, easy to work with. So it's not just a show. It's just like his personality is who he is.
Right. Yeah. No, he seems like a good one. I'm looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
And is it going to be Lasik, or was it Lasik and Jackson together? Is that what you're trying to do?
Being Jackson and Lasik, I got to get one of them. Like, yeah, dude, we're in. And then like, all right, when? Ghost. Well, I got guys I want to get on. I got like 6 students that'd be real good. Yeah, it's just like I'm entertaining that because obviously they're not familiar with our show. Right. Just to kind of get them across that finish line. It's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy. But we got to come up with a name with this. And Andy Anderson, he called me earlier so the process in regards to him. All right. So what happens is he calls, and then it's like 35 to 45 minutes before he can call again. But sometimes there's like programs on the deck. Sometimes there's like other people that got to use the phone. Right. Like things of that nature. And it's really hard because my whole day has to be waiting for him. It took 12 hours to get
12 hours.
Yeah, it took 12 hours. And dude, that's just me. Think about him.
Yeah.
Like
his whole day is built around it too. But it seems like he enjoyed the process. He seemed cool with it.
Yeah. And he says he's down for part 2. Like some of the things that we didn't ask about was the early UFC had a performance institute that kind of flopped. I think Dan Severn talked Bob Meyrowitz into opening up in Michigan, and it completely, like anything Dan Severn touches, there's always going to be some like stuff in the game in regards to it. So
Dan got paid.
Or kept the equipment after, for his own gym.
What year are we talking?
Like UFC 5, 6, 7, right around there. Yeah, like that early. Like when Dan had his initial run. Right. Also, Phyllis Lee was an early mixed martial arts manager. Andy and her had a really good relationship. At least that's what my notes told me. Yeah. And we didn't get to it. There's other things like that IFC event.
I'm glad
we got that cleared up.
Yeah.
There's also Sharon, you can't touch that bit. So there's also that UFC Kuwait event. Remember, It was a Kuwait event, and then they changed the name last minute.
It's like the UFC. It was definitely the UFC ref. Big John McCarthy's in Kuwait. I'd love to hear the story behind that one.
So I think.
And a great card. Like
Kareem Barkolev was on that, like the first Dagestani world champion. I mean, he won the Abu Dhabi tournament in '99, and then I think Roger Gracie beat him, and it was controversial, and he gave the Sheik the finger, and they had to be. I think his security had to be talked out of taking his arm and presenting it to the Sheik. Yeah. God. So I've actually got Barkolev's phone number, and he and I text. He swears he's going to come on with a translator. And like we don't do many of those interviews, but Kareem Barkolev, I'd 100% kind of make the exception for it. Another guy that wants to do it through a translator is Ebenezer Braga. Who I'm a huge Ebenezer Braga fan. Dude,
Good
I'm
one.
like, Ebenezer Braga? What? Like, I'm in.
Yeah, the guy that guillotined Jeremy Horn. I mean, hell yeah.
Beat up Brandon Hinkle too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was that in Brazil?
Yeah.
That was Brazil, right?
He's living in Fort Lauderdale. He's been living there since like 2013 and still doesn't have a grasp of the English language. Kind of, that's just kind of like the Miami culture. They kind of hang on to their roots, which.
Right. They've got these little Brazilian enclaves where you can actually get by speaking Portuguese in a few states.
So that's what we got going on. But Joey, I thought it came off well. We closed the debate with Art Davie in regards to and Buddy Albin. I tell you,
the Oleg controversy. Is that what you meant? We closed
it also in as well as that. But I thought like Art Davie was involved with that Buddy Albin thing.
Yeah.
Because
he cleared his name.
But David Isaacs, all of those guys, and even Bob Meyrowitz, they all said, nope, he was involved. And
that's true.
Very interesting. I don't think he was lying. I don't think Andy was lying. And as Andy said, he was there relaying information to Bob Meyrowitz in real time.
Yeah. Andy's got no motivation to lie. So
no, he didn't like Buddy Albin. Buddy Albin stole a bunch of money from him. Okay, I'll go over there and tell you exactly what's going on. Here you go, Bob Meyrowitz. Yeah. Okay. Oh, he's fired now. Okay, good. That's the game, dude. That's the game. So
I think it went well. You did a good job on this one. This is you got a knack for the prison interviews.
Yeah. So all right. So coming up next in terms of prison interviews, Cedric Marks. Yeah, we got a guy
locked up. Is that the one that's locked up with
death row?
Okay.
All right. So I don't think this guy wants me to say his name because he works for like a state agency.
Okay.
But he's been helping me like get a hold of these inmates.
Nice.
He's been really good.
Probably for sure does not want his name said on air. Yeah.
He got me in touch with Joe San as well.
Okay.
So I talked to Joe. I even recorded the conversation. And I don't think it would be ethical for me to interview him. And it has nothing to do with his horrific charges and just like what a terrible human being he is, which like the guy checks all of the boxes for somebody that should be buried up to their neck and covered in honey. I mean, that's for sure. Like there's no question about that. But I think there's some mental issues going on. And you know what, dude? I might just put the phone call out there as is. Right. But he's the type of inmate that I dealt with that I absolutely could not stand. Like it's
just a no remorse or
well, hey Joey, you know how to kick, right, Joey? You know what like a real kick looks like, right, Joey? And then before Joey can answer, he would go, well, when I get out of here, I'm going to make another run at the UFC and blah, 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 blah. I need $800 for an interview, blah, 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 blah. But, dude, I'm going to make a comeback, dude. Like, you can be on this train with me, man. Like, you can back this horse, Joey. And it's just like, they don't let you talk. All they do is just talk over you. And I don't know.
That's too bad because I got dreams of having a round table with Joe San and Kimo. Get the band back together.
Dude, even Joe Moreira. Walk us through what took place with Joe Moreira. Yeah. Terror. Look at dude. Go on SureDog and look at the result for Joe Moreira versus Joe San.
Joe San.
And like the paying of the guy to train with Rickson. I mean, come on, dude. Walk us through that. Like that's super interesting.
TKO via terror.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But no, we're gonna do more. We're gonna get more. They take a lot out of me. So what I think we're gonna do is we're gonna get up a couple weeks, like maybe like 2 or 3 interviews ahead. So when like we're able to knock one of these out, and like your beginnings of these things it presents it so well that, like, oftentimes when I see people, when they have questions about the podcast, it's what inmate is next. And
Right.
I think if we just released it under the standard, like, normal practices, my belief is that there'd be some confusion and maybe the interest wouldn't be as high, but it makes people stick around and they get to kind of understand the depth of the people we're interviewing as well as the type of research that we do.
Right.
Which
So for
which
our
could be
audience
lost.
members, we're putting it out there. If you've got an idea for a name on our prison series, comment below, and
All right.
it will be considered. I promise you that.
All right. Also, we ran into a problem. All right. So
Which one?
the referee yellow cards that they do in Pride.
Yeah.
I got a bunch. I got like 2,000 printed up with our logo on it. Where I get my mail is not where I live. Like, I live in a city of Chicago. I can't get packages delivered to where I live and expect them to be there when I get home.
That's
Like,
a good
it's
point.
I can't do it. I can't do it. It's just not going to happen.
Lori Lightfoot.
She's phenomenal man. So, in essence, I get my package. Hey, confirmed, Alibaba delivered. Blah 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 blah. I go and pick it up today, and it's like this giant box, like this huge box.
Huh.
And I'm like, they're like, that's like 10,000 yellow cards. Like, there's no way that's
Right.
my package. So I open it up, and it's like cheese graters. Let me see if I can get one. And it's like, dude, I got like 30 cheese graters. I got let's see if I can find it here. Shit. Let me turn on the light. I got like 30 cheese graters, and I got like a carrot. Oh, dude, check this bad boy out. Dude, I got like 50 of these. I got like carrot plates,
Okay.
cheese graters. Like, it's not what I ordered. So I'm kind of in a dispute.
You didn't get charged for that shit, did you?
Oh, no. I paid up front. Yeah, I paid up front. So it's even worse. It's even worse, dude. I paid up front for it. So it was like a couple
Someone
$100.
Else got yellow cards.
So, but what I'm trying to tell you is we've got cheese graters. If you leave a review,
that's right.
I got at least like 15 cheese graters, and I think I got like another dozen carrot plates. If they leave a review, dude, I'll send these carrot plates. Dude, these carrot plates, bro.
The MMA history carrot plates.
Dude, Easter's coming up. You kidding me? Come on, man.
I can always use another cheese grater.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm going to make some pizza. Because I'm a walking stereotype.
Dude, it's just essentially, it's like I got a giant box full of bullshit. Yeah. Unbelievable. So
shit happened. I blame Ariel Hawani. He's been trying to undermine this podcast ever since he started feeling the heat of us on his tail.
Oh yeah, right. Our own dude, we got 101 Apple reviews. I think he's at like 900.
So those are all bots.
Dude, we're catching up. We're catching up. He's actually like a real journalist. He's one of the few.
He is.
He's actually one of the few. Yeah,
he's grown with the sport. Yeah.
I mean, he's not afraid to make enemies either. So, no. All right, Joey, absolute pleasure, dude. And we're gonna keep these things going, and then I think we're gonna bounce back. We got to get Jared Shaw, number 3, which is a little bit. It's like peak controversy, and then the fall. Right. We're probably gonna do just a solo episode on all the shenanigans that took place with Kimbo. I'm going to see if Rich Chow can join us too for that. That was the actual matchmaker. I think Rich should be real politically correct, but I think Jared would kind of go all in.
Now, Kimbo's manager, the guy that he went to high school with, what's
Icy
his
Mike.
name?
Yeah, Icy Mike.
Icy Mike. It would be cool to get Icy Mike on just for Kimbo stories. I mean, I bet that'd be a
you know what, dude? Or maybe that'd be the last one. Icy Mike and Jared.
That would be cool. Yeah, I think so. And Jared seemed to really like the guy, so I don't think there'd be a problem there.
Yeah. You know, like Jared's coming across really well. He's coming across like especially that last interview. Like he kind of understood the format, understood like kind of like our cadence. And it's like, no, we're taking this thing slow walk. So
and he's been patient with us because some guys would jump on and want to be in and out in an hour. No, we're doing 4 episodes.
No. Yeah, I mean 2 hours each.
It was the last time an organization was threatening the UFC. Of course, we got to take our time on that. Ever since then, it's nobody's close.
It's good stuff too, though, right?
It is. It's a fantastic slice of history.
Yeah, it's a good way to kick off the year. Love you, Joey. See you next week.
Not to love.
Yeah.
All right, see you.
Yeah.